Hello, welcome back to the Caring Conversation studio. We're here with another guest, Oliver. How are you doing?
I'm very well. Thank you very much for having me.
No worries. Would you like to tell us who you are and what you do?
Of course, yeah. So I'm Oliver. I'm one of the co-founders of Edyn Care, and we specialise in living care across England. So we're a CQC regulated living care provider. That covers the whole of England.
Perfect. I mean, it sounds obvious, living care, right? But what does it actually involve? You know, what does that look like for the end user?
Yeah. So typically, I think people tend to see the market as like two different types of care, one being residential, one being domiciliary. But actually, we sort of split it into three, one being residential, one being dom care, which typically would be the visiting care in the community where people go and visit for 1 hour, 2 hours a day. And then actually live-in care is quite different because the care is actually moving into someone's own home, providing that 24/7 care and staying there for a duration of time of up to 3 to 6 weeks before they then have a break, and then another live-in carer would then take over until that main carer comes back. So it's best of both worlds. You're getting to stay in your own home, but you're also getting that individual one-to-one care that a care home would offer, which is around the clock. But again, you're in your own home, surrounded by your own furniture, your own garden, your own neighbours, your pets.
Memories.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay. So, and in terms of like who uses this type of service, is it mainly private paying clients that use this, or as opposed to funded like by the local authority?
Yeah, traditionally it's typically private paying individuals. We are finding that there is more of a push from the government to keep people within their own homes over going into care homes because they see the long-term benefits of people staying within their own homes. So there is more and more funding, although there's not more and more funding in the industry as a whole, there is more being allocated to live-in care gradually. So it's quite a good sign that that the government's also seeing the benefits of being able to stay in your own home, even though you need round-the-clock care.
Without being too sort of crass, is it cheaper than going to a care home, or does it? It's probably a very much it depends question. But generally, is that what local authorities would be saying? Well, if we've got a choice here and we can actually place someone in their home, they'd prefer that, and feels like it's better value to them. I don't know. It might not be.
It's actually similar. Sometimes you can actually get it cheaper, and it obviously depends on the home you're comparing it against. But we'd say it's the same, if not cheaper at times, and obviously the benefits we believe outweigh massively than potentially going into a care home. So I mean, from a cost benefit, it's a no-brainer.
And how with recruitment then? Obviously, that's a very different type of role you're recruiting for. What type of people do these roles? Like, is it younger people, older people? How do you?
It's very varied.
Yeah.
So we find that the younger people that do it are potentially training or learning something else on the side, and they're looking for a steady income. So they might be training to become a nurse in the future, and they're looking to get some experience within the live-in care sector. But you also get people in their 60s and 70s who've been doing it their whole life, or maybe they've looking to step back from a more stressful environment and continue providing that one-to-one care. So it's very varied. You get a lot of people travelling in internationally. So we have people that sometimes travel in from Spain, from Italy, from France, looking to come in for a month, 2 months at a time, and then head back for a couple of weeks and then return. So it's very varied.
What's the sort of matching process like? Is there I guess when someone's helping a loved one move into a care home, they might go visit quite a few different care homes. How does that work? Do you introduce them to a few different people, or do you do sort of trial periods? How does it work?
Yeah,
sorry, it might seem very basic, but it's kind of a new concept.
No, so the matching was so important to us and to me personally, because the reason I got involved in starting was because my grandmother was really ill in 2014. She had lymphoma. My granddad passed away while she was going through her chemotherapy, and she suddenly needed some really urgent help at home. The agencies that we approached didn't really capture some really important information about my grandmother, being that she's a an artist and a grandmother first, and then a cancer sufferer second. But that artist piece was like completely missed. They didn't relay it to the carers. They didn't find carers who were also passionate in art or willing to really encourage my grandmother to keep painting. So we saw a very quick deterioration in my grandmother, which otherwise could have been avoided by her painting and her having that encouragement. It wasn't the carer's fault, it was the agency's fault, not capturing it and not relaying it. So seeing that happen to my grandmother is what eventually led me to start Edyn about 3 years later. And it's about really picking up on who that individual is at the core, who they were, what their passions are, to be able to match them with someone who will be able to, well, hopefully share those passions, ideally, but definitely encourage those to continue, because we don't want people to see care as a point where you're not going to continue those passions, where those passions die a death. Actually, it should be continued, because that's how you're going to continue being happy and mentally stimulated and continue that way. So we have a very in-depth matching process, and it's kind of like at the forefront of what we do. Once we identify suitable carers after doing a care assessment, we would then we would then introduce them to some carers. They would have a conversation with them over Zoom, the family, the person receiving care as well, if they can, and then they can make a decision as to say, okay, yeah, this person's the right person for us. They really got it right here. And that's when the terms are signed and agreed. So matching is like at the heart of what we want to get right and do.
And are you based regionally, or like, how does that operate? Do you work all over the country, or?
Yeah, all over England. So we're CQC regulated, but because we're not providing the hourly care, which I mentioned earlier, it means that we can have a wider geographical spread. Our carers can. Ideally, they only have to travel up to half an hour to find a placement, but sometimes they can travel 2 hours to get their train.
I suppose they're going to be living there anyway.
They're going to be living there, so they're going to be there for duration of time. So we cover England, and it works very well. We have regional care managers who would step in and do the spot checks, so make sure everything's running as it should be. Train the carer on anything ad hoc that might be required, and ultimately, give the family peace of mind and us peace of mind. So, yeah.
Perfect, interesting. So, yeah, it's a good time. You think there's a good market? Lots of people are interested in this service.
Yeah, I think ever since the pandemic, it really came at the forefront of people's minds that there was this other option. People were a bit wary about going into care homes, not because of anything that care homes were doing wrong, but because of the pressures that they were under. And since then, it's really been at the forefront of people's minds, and it's only growing as an industry. And as I say, the cost is similar. The matching and the one-to-one care is better, and they get to stay within their own home. So, it's growing. It's growing, which is great for us.
Perfect. Well, I've got a final question for you. If you were a sandwich, what type of sandwich would you be?
If I was a sandwich, what sandwich would I be? So I grew up in Spain.
Okay.
And one of the sandwiches which was really odd that they do there is a tortilla sandwich.
A crisp sandwich?
Tortilla being the Spanish omelette.
Okay. Oh, right. Sorry. Yeah.
So as a young child, I found those fascinating, and they're very different. I'd like to say that Edyn's quite fascinating, very different. So maybe a Spanish omelette sandwich.
Perfect. Lovely. Well, thank you very much for coming and seeing us in the studio.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's been great to meet you, and
you too.
good to
Cheers.
meet you. Thank you. We'll be back shortly.